Hi all, Karthik here from Design School by WP Algorithm. In this video, let's take a look at all the new features in Elementor version 2.9. This is a huge release and I'll cover all the features coming to Elementor version 2.9 real soon. At the time of making this video, this is still in beta, but by the time you watch this video, it will be out. And here are all the new features you should expect in Elementor version 2.9. The first and foremost feature in Elementor version 2.9 is the brand new theme styles. If you've watched the style kits video by Analog WP that I made earlier on the channel, well, these are exactly the same except that they're made by Elementor. Well, these are the ways to set defaults for your widgets. So if you want to set a default font size, color and all that for each of your headings, your paragraphs, your buttons, so you can set them. By defaults, I mean the moment you drag your widgets into Elementor interface, you want to have certain properties. So those are called defaults, and style kits for Elementor by Analog WP already does this. Now that Elementor is building this into the core version, here's how it works. So you just click on this hamburger icon in Elementor page and you now have something called theme style. Just click on that, and before that it will ask you to save all the changes. Just click on save all your work because it's a brand new interface, and once you enter this interface you cannot edit anything in Elementor interface. So you just need to click on this, and here you can set defaults for each and everything that you want. So you can set a default for your Elementor sections, columns or even a whole page. I just dragged in a couple of widgets. So this is H2, H3, H4 and so on, and this is a paragraph. Now let's start by customizing or tweaking the default background. The moment I change it to this color, the background of each and every widget is again changed to the color that I set here. You can obviously override this at an individual section, column or a widget level. Like I said, these are just defaults and these are not your final styles. You can obviously override them at an individual section, column or a widget level, similar to what you've done with style kits by Analog WP. Let's choose a background for all our widgets, sections and columns. So this is the default background. You can also choose a background image for all the sections, columns and widgets. You can also set the default background per device. So you can set a default background for desktop, a default background for tablet and so on. We'll just settle with the background color, and you can see the moment we change the background color, the entire page is affected because it's actually having that default background color. Let's start customizing the typography. Let's change the text color. It's the text color of any normal widget. Well, these are all particular widgets. Let's go ahead and customize everything else. You can also customize the color and hover state of links. Okay, let's start customizing H1, H2 and so on. Let's start with H2. And the moment I change the H2 color, you can see that it's being reflected here and here because those are all H2s and they have default styles selected. Well, in order to have these default styles selected, you should make sure that you're not overriding any styles from your theme. So these are the styles applied within Elementor interface no matter which theme you use. So these are like a top layer within your theme. It doesn't matter what theme you use. You can simply set them using Elementor. Let's also change H3's native color, and you can see that here. Let's change that to something else, and you can say that here. So you can not just adjust the color, you can also set the typography. You can select the font family, which obviously will be the same for most of your headings and paragraphs, or you might have different font for your heading and paragraph, so on. So till H6 you can customize everything else you want. Let's also customize the typography of paragraph and watch what happens as I resize this. This is basically a text editor widget and it has default style selected. So it will have all the properties inherited from theme styles that we define in Elementor theme style, similar to global kits. Let's also change the colors of buttons. I'll just click on update here. I'll just drag in buttons. I'll also drag in forms. I'll also drag in a couple of images to show you how the style kits are actually affecting, or theme styles are actually affecting those widgets. So I'll just click on this X button. Now I'm taken back to Elementor interface. I'll click on this. Let's drag in a button. Let's drag in a form. It can be any form. We'll just drag in a normal form here. So we have a form there, and Let's drag in a normal image. I'll select the image. I'll maybe pick this one right there. Let's update this. Just before going to that theme styles interface, I'll click on hamburger icon again, click on theme styles. Again, I won't be able to edit this once I click on theme styles. You can see that here. Let's go and change the buttons. Let's change the background color, and there you can see it. Let's also change the hover color just like that. You can change the default behavior of your buttons. You can also choose a border type. Let's also pick a color for this. So whenever you drag in a new button, these are all the properties that the new button will have. You can obviously go into that button's style settings and override each one of them or remove each one of them. But unless and until anything is selected or a default option is selected, these are the settings that the button will have, or these are the styles that the button will have. Now coming back to our form, as you can see here, we changed the button style over here, and the button style is also changed within the form. So it's the same for buttons everywhere within Elementor interface. Unless and until they have their own styles, they'll inherit styles from theme styles. Let's go to form fields. Let's change the label color. Label is this one, and if I pick a different color, you can see the label color is changed. You can also change the typography of the label. You can also change the fields typography. You can basically change all the things that you want. Let's also change, you can also pick text color for your fields. You can also change the focus. Focus is when you actually entering the input data itself. So this is the focus color. Let me change the focus text color to this one, and watch what happens as I type. That's the color the text has when I type in it, because that's the focus state of a field. You can see all the settings being reflected there. You can choose a border type, border radius, transition duration. You can also choose padding for it. Let's choose 10 pixels padding, or maybe 100 pixels padding for each field, and it's reflected just like that. If you want to have a 10 pixels default padding, you can have it. Similarly, you can tweak images the way you want. So if you want to have a default hover effect for all the images globally, you can do that. So normally you can pick all the properties that you want, and on hover you can maybe have a CSS filter, maybe you can have a blur or something just like that. And every image you drag in will have these properties by default unless you override them. You can also pick box shadow on hover. So let's actually pick a box shadow. Let's pick this, and just like that, just like that, like that. Click on update, and these are all the styles that your style kit will have. Let's click on update. I'll click on settings cog again. You can also rename your theme style kit. I'll just call it Elementor 1. So this is the name I'll give to this particular style kit, and every new page you create will have these style kits. And it's really simple way of setting defaults for everything in one single convenient interface, which is independent of your theme. And in case your style kits are not working, this is what you should do. You need to go to Elementor, click on settings, and under general you have to make sure that both these boxes are unchecked. If you check these boxes, the style kits won't work, because the Elementor interface will inherit all the properties from your theme, making all those styles dependent on your theme. So uncheck these and save changes. If your style kits are not working, they should work out of the box. If they're not, just uncheck these and save changes. They'll just work like a breeze. And that's how you deal with theme style kits of Elementor. But global style kits by Analog WP, they have more options. There you can set default column size, column padding, and a lot more. Maybe Elementor will add them in future versions, but this is what you get with Elementor version 2.9. Before moving on to the next big feature, which is the Lightbox improvements, these style kits are also a part of Elementor interface, meaning you can use the revisions and actions feature. So you can click on this history button over here, click on revisions, and you can roll back the changes that you've made to your style kits. So for instance, I changed the style kit's background color in this version, as you can see here. If I want to change it back to a previous version that I published earlier, you can simply go to revisions, click on that, update, and those settings or the styles at this particular point will be updated as the current style kit. It also works with actions. So if you make a lot of changes in your current workflow and you want to revert few of them, so let's say if I change the background from this to blue, I can simply click on this and I can roll back the changes before I publish the data over here. So it's that easy. It works with actions and revisions. That's a cool addition to theme styles by Elementor. Let's move on to the next big feature, which are the Lightbox improvements. The second big feature is the Lightbox upgrade. So Lightbox works with any widget that has images or videos. So it can be gallery widget, it can be normal image widget. Whenever you click on this image, it will open up a Lightbox. and the default behavior has been changed and so much more has been added to Elementor Lightbox. To enable Lightbox settings, you just click on the hamburger icon, go to global settings, under Lightbox you find image Lightbox selected here. So here you can have the counter enabled or disabled. You can also enable or disable full screen, enable or disable zoom, footer text and all that. So title, when you hover over this, you can see that you have a title and a description. You can simply update this, and when I click on it, it opens up in this Lightbox window that has few arrows, kind of a slider. I can simply move through all my images by clicking on this particular arrows, and I can see the count of the images within the Lightbox, and the global style kits that we set earlier also apply to the Lightbox itself. You can see the box shadow in action, and you can go full screen by clicking on this button, so that will take the Lightbox full screen. You can either escape to exit full screen, you can click on the X button. You can also zoom into your Lightbox by clicking on this. You can then pan around your image, zoom out again. You can also click on this to share your Lightbox, and Elementor has mentioned that this is particularly helpful for showcasing your portfolio. So you can showcase your whole web page or a template by using this Lightbox. It's really cool. So they can share on Twitter, Facebook or Pinterest. They can even download the image for future reference. So that's a huge upgrade to Lightbox, and again Lightbox is applicable to any image with image or video in it. So this is the gallery widget, the Pro Gallery widget. It will work with any image widget or any widget that has image or videos in it. So that's feature number 2. Coming to the next feature, which is all about link attributes. This one is also really huge, but links are actually HTML elements. So these are represented by the A tag, which I've explained in the HTML tutorial. Links in HTML are basically elements with the structure such as this. So it's something like a, href and so on, and I've explained this in the creative Elementor buttons tutorial. We've made Elementor buttons by taking code from internet and converting it into Elementor button. I'll leave a link to that in the description. So this is a typical link, but in Elementor interface, you'd find links as fields within your widgets. There are a lot of widgets that have link fields within them. So heading widget, button widget, even the image widget has a link field. So just click on the heading widget, and here you can find something called link. You can enter any link that you want, or you can click on the settings cog and it will open up a new field, and this is where all the magic happens. There are something called attributes for every HTML element. It's not unique to links. They're basically attributes for each and every HTML element. I've explained this in the HTML Basics tutorial. So if you go to HTML links, you can go to the W3 schools, and you can find there are a ton of attributes for this. So these are all the attributes for the links, and each attribute has certain information regarding that. I'll discuss couple of attributes. Href is again built into Elementor. So the link field itself is the href field, which I'll show you in a bit. So the heading widget is a heading, right? But it's still a link. Let's say I just linked my heading widget to home page. I'll update it. I'll click on preview changes. It'll open up a preview page where I can see all the things in action. So here if I right click and click on inspect, I can see that within H2 I have a link which says ahref, and the URL is the URL that I entered within the link field, and whatever attribute you enter within the link field will be added to this particular link. So even for the button, I'll just click on the button. I'll go to content. Again, I'll change the button's link to something else. It can be any URL. I'll update this. The preview gets updated. Let's inspect the button now. Again, it's a link field. It's a link HTML element with ahref, and all the attributes that you add to the link field will be added here. I'll show you that in a bit. So let's go ahead, and there are a lot of attributes for the link tag, as you can see here, and HTML elements have attributes and values. So there's an attribute called download that will allow us to download the linked file. So for instance, I can change this to save image, and in my media library, I'll copy and paste the URL of an image to this particular link. So here I'll just paste the link. I'll click on the settings cog. Within custom attributes, I'll just set download. Now download is an attribute that doesn't require a value. Usually you'd enter attribute and value separated by this vertical line. So you'd say something like download. Even download has an optional attribute that's basically the file name. So I'll just give it. So this will be the name of the file downloaded when you click on the button. And this will be the file that will be downloaded when you paste the URL. I'll update this, and the name of the file we've given or the value of the attribute is file1. I'll go to the preview page. I'll close this down. I'll click on save image, and you can see the file is saved with the name file1, which is the attribute value that we've specified. Now this attribute even works without a value. There are some attributes that don't even require a value. I've removed the value of the attribute. There's just the attribute itself. I'll click on save image again. It's saved with any random file name or the actual file name. So that's really neat of having attributes. And the link attribute should be separated with a comma. Let's add another attribute. So there is another attribute called title. Again, separate that attribute and value with the vertical line, which is usually your backslash. Just hold down shift and click on the backslash character and you'll get this vertical line. Title, and the value of the attribute should be without any double quotes. I'll say save now. I'll just click on update, and when I hover over this button, you can see a tooltip that says save now. That's what title attribute does. So title attribute will basically give you a tooltip, and this is actually good for accessibility purposes, since some of the screen readers can't read your buttons, and having a title attribute for your buttons is really handy. The way you do it is simply enter title separated by the vertical line and then the value of attribute, whatever value you want within the tooltip. It's that easy. So these attributes are really powerful. You have a lot of attributes, rel, no referrer, and so on. So that will, if you have any sponsored content on your page, so you can say no referrer, or you can say no follow, or whatever. You can also have target attribute. This is not really necessary, because when you click on the settings cog, you can obviously choose open in new window. You can also add a new follow just within this, and watch what happens as I add download attribute here. I'll update this, and when we click on the preview, and I'll just inspect this, and you can see the download attribute being added here, and that's the value let's say we've added the title attribute as well. So I'll add title attribute here, down title, my file, update this. When I update this, even the preview of the page is updated. Again, you can see that the link has href attribute, which is the link of the file to be downloaded, a download attribute, a title attribute with a value of my file. So that's how it works. So those are link attributes, and you can put any attribute separated by commas, and each attribute value pair must be separated by this vertical line. That's how they work, and this applies to your headings as well. So if you click on your heading, again you can do all sorts of things. You can link this, you can maybe have a title, main. So this will give a tooltip when you hover over the main heading. The preview is refreshed. When I hover over it, again it says main. Even when you inspect this, even the heading will have a link field or link HTML structure within this. As you can see, within H2 I still have a link which says ahref, and you can see the attribute title and main being added to the link. So that's how these custom attributes work. These are really powerful, and that's one of the biggest features in Elementor version 2.9. Those are the big features, and there are a couple of tweaks. So within your toggle widget, the title now has a dynamic field. I drag in my toggle widget. If I go to title, it can be linked to any dynamic option that you have. So that's one feature added, but still no dynamic option for the tab title. I don't know when it will be added, but Jet tabs already have this. You can see Elementor tabs don't have a dynamic option for tab title. Even for description, they don't have. I don't know why. Maybe in the next version they'll add dynamic capabilities to the tabs widget. That's one feature. And the second feature is within the image widget. So if I drag in an image widget, and if I pick an image, let's pick this image, and within style, within width and max width, you can now pick vertical width or viewport width. Sorry, it's viewport width. So it's relative to size of the screen. You can pick VW, and you can say 2 or 20. So based on how much the viewport or the browser window width is, the image will be scaled, or you can say 50. So it will be half of the viewport width. Previously it used to just be the percentage value. It can now be pixels or viewport width. That's one feature added. And the second feature is within the spacer widget. Again, they've added couple of values. So the space can be relative to viewport height. So height of the window or the area that the viewer can see. That's what viewport height means. It can also be ems relative to the font size of this particular widget. So those are a couple of minor tweaks, but the major ones being theme styles, light boxes, and the link attribute. That's Elementor 2.9 in a nutshell. This version is really huge. I'll update you with any new features if I find. That's it for now. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you guys have any questions regarding attributes, images, or theme styles, let me know in the comments down below.